भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Okay. So, up to now we have seen that these are different aspects of who is a sattvic person can be seen from many different aspects, right? So one is how does one connect to the universe. The second is how, some kind of a some austerity, that discipline is something which is necessary because human beings, like any other being, has a tendency to act on instinct. Okay, and what happens is, unlike every other species, at least on earth, okay, human being is privileged because human being has been endowed with free will. Okay, so therefore, along with free will, there is a developed mind which can then make certain choices, not just based on instincts, but more evolved choices. Okay, so therefore, that to develop that capacity of making evolved choices, okay, you need to somehow train the mind in a way that it doesn't continue to make choices based on instincts. Okay, and there, that self-discipline is something which is actually very necessary, which makes you the person who is more deliberate and not mechanical in nature. Okay, so that very austerity which is very necessary, either it can be sattvic, rajasic or tamasic. How can that be? Okay, it can be because when it is serving the purpose of making you more deliberate, more focused and more enlightened person with a wider perspective, who makes a decision from a wider perspective rather than one's own raga and dvesha, as Parijat was saying, then you're using that tapas in a right manner to make you achieve what you need to be as an individual. Okay, but now that same austerity could be rajasic if, as a result of that austerity, let's say you become a person who attracts people, and then it becomes a source of power for you. Okay, so that means you want it for recognition of person. Oh, what a yogi! Oh, what a So that means what you are behind is not your personal development, but more kind of through that it becomes one more mechanism for you to become famous. Okay, and then to have power or whatever. There is nothing wrong in becoming famous, but that cannot be your intention, right? Behind doing it. As a result of being a sattvic person, if you become famous, then it's not like you have to resist it. But it really depends upon popularity could be a side product. It need not be the intention, right? So this is something which is very important. We are not trying to resist anything and say this is not what it is. What we are saying is what are we interested in, okay? So then if that is my focus, then that becomes rajasic. The very austerity becomes rajasic, okay? And that austerity, if it actually inflicts pain on myself, okay, that becomes tamasic. So we have seen the one form is, how this fasting, which is very, very positive thing, then if it turns into, when you're anorexic, it becomes tamasic because you're actually destroying yourself. Okay? So that's why it itself can be rajasic, tamasic and sattvic. Okay? Now he says, now there are many other ways of looking at how does a person who has sattvic qualities engage in the world. Okay? So there are few other criteria. One thing is the food that you choose. Okay? Then the kind of there is yajnaha and then dana. So this is something that how do you engage in the world with reference to few other things are talked about. The first thing is food. Okay? Now let's look at the verse itself. Verse 8. So it says, Ayu sattva bala rogya sukha priti nivardhanaha rasya snigdha stira hridya ahara sattvaka priyaha. Okay, so a person who has sattvic qualities, what kind of foods the person is attracted to? Okay, now here one thing is very, very important, really, that one can be very evolved in one area and one may not be. So it's not like labeling and not to get into this self-judgment. We are not talking about that at all. We are just trying to be very gentle with ourselves and do what we can, right? So here it is, please don't start judging people. This is really not the intention. Okay? Now this is, this person is having tamasic. The whole vocabulary changes, but that's the tendency of mind to be judgmental remains. That is what we call pseudo spirituality. Okay, we are not trying to do that. Okay, but you need to understand that the food that generally we choose, as yesterday when I talked about, we use a certain why do we eat the kind of food that we eat? Okay, generally when we are born, the food is served to us, right? It's not like we make choices. We are born in a certain family background and then the food is served to us. So that becomes my habit. Okay. Now as I begin to intake that food, what happens is, that my system somehow is geared to accept that food, and any other food my system has to adjust. Right? Now as you become a little bit older, what happens is that you probably need not always go with whatever food that you were born with. Sometimes people make major shifts, in the kind of foods they eat. Okay? So generally what is the criteria people use when they shift their preferences? Health. Right? That is what, what is healthy. You become little bit more aware. Even if you were born in a family which had lot of oily food, then you try to avoid that. Very spicy food, you try to avoid that. Fatty food, you try to avoid that. So the whole criteria has now become what? Health. Okay. Now a sattvic person, there is not only health, not only habit, but some other criteria. Okay. What are the other criteria? Sattva. Sattva means, as we saw, engaging in a world with a proper understanding of things. Yeah, okay? Eating is an action that I perform 3 times a day. The food that I choose reflects in a certain way the choices that I make and the way I engage in the world. Okay? So, a sattvic food would have a different type of criteria. It's not just health, it's not just habit. Okay? The first criteria is, it's a choice where you have thought through things little bit more. Okay, so the first criteria is ahimsa. Okay? Ahimsa is non-violence. Okay? Now the world is designed in a way that, in fact, in the Sanskrit there is a saying, Jivaha Jivasya Bhojanam. Okay? That means a life depends upon life. Okay? So that means in order for you to eat, okay, you have to take some life. Okay? There is, you can't avoid it totally, because even when you eat the plant food, you are actually in some ways, okay, taking a life. Okay? But then what is interesting is that doesn't mean that there is a degree, the least harm possible. Okay? We are not saying totally not harming, because that's impossible. Okay? The least harm possible. Okay? When you apply that criteria, that I am engaging in the world in a way that my food habits have to exhibit that I am sensitive to the needs of beings around me. Okay? So that means just as I want to live, right, others also want to live. Okay? Nobody wants to die. Okay? Then I try to do the least harm possible. Okay? In that sense, the vegetarian food, you certainly do much less harm than when you eat, a live like animal or fish or whatever, right? So that means, in fact, you really need to think through things, okay? Because what happens is that when I don't know, people eat chicken and I don't know, goats, or I don't even know, sheep or cows, or I don't know what all they eat, pigs, I don't know what all they eat, right? So when they are basically bred, okay, and then they go to a slaughterhouse. Just imagine the scene. Don't even have to go to a slaughterhouse and see that, okay? Imagine a scene where the pig or the cow sees that now the one in front of me is finished, okay, and now next is my turn. It is really, if you are a thinking person, it is too much. Okay. And what happens is, at the time, in fact, the animals are very intelligent. They know the danger is there right now. My time has come. Okay, and there is a mechanism through which, okay, that the body excretes certain chemicals, right? Because that is out of fear. That is just, and that is something which has spread all over. Okay, and then the cow's turn comes and gone. Okay, now that comes very nicely presented on your plate with very beautiful, if you're French, then it's all come with, very beautiful garnishing and all. It looks all wonderful, but actually you're eating a dead cow. That is the truth. Okay? And the violence that is inflicted is something which is enormous. And you're not doing it one time, you're doing it day after day after day. There is a cost. Okay? So this is what we say, that there is certainly himsa there. And you can say one thing, and you said, even if I become a vegetarian, right, the slaughterhouses will continue because there are millions of human beings, right, who will eat meat. So how am I really contributing? But that is the wrong logic. Okay? People do whatever they want. You don't partake in that. That is your choice. That is what we call human free will. You don't do it just because you want to be healthy, because you want to reduce your cholesterol. You can be a vegetarian entirely for reducing your cholesterol, okay? But you can be a vegetarian because you have value for life. Different. Two individuals are vegetarian, but what they understand out of it makes all the difference. Okay? That is your sensitivity when you engage in the universe. You make choices. Okay? So this is what we say, that vegetarian food is certainly more, that passes the test of ahimsa. Okay? The second thing is, you're into environment. Okay? If you look at the criteria, my choices have a certain repercussions, not only in terms of my value for ahimsa, non-violence, but it has a certain repercussions, okay, on the nature of the universe itself. Okay? If you see the livestock industry, okay, what the huge fields are meant to feed the livestock. Okay? And then what happens? They are all fed and fed and fed, overfed, to become bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay? So you have bigger, more meat. Okay? And they emit what? Methane. Okay? And that methane actually is more causing the pollutant, it's more polluting than even carbon dioxide. Okay? So that means I show insensitivity to that.
What is emitting methane?
Methane is something that the cows, the animals, they emit. It's like, and
when you
breed
a lot.
Yeah, when you breed a lot, they take out the gas.
So the contribution to the greenhouse effect and the warming of this is much more than, for example, the emission of carbon dioxide by the cars. Right?
It is. It's actually one of the worst gases out there.
Okay, so that means we think about environment and we talk very sophisticatedly about the government policies and we talk about the industry, but we ourselves take part in that and we are totally oblivious to that. This is how human life is lived. Always we find, our reasoning applies to the world, right? And we are all fine, right? Okay, so this is where you actually begin to be that sensitive person, that what is within my prerogative, I make wiser choices. Not just out of habit, not just out of my concern for my health, right? But certain bigger criteria. The third thing which is very important is that we've been emphasizing again and again, and we said that we live in an interconnected world. Okay? So that means every action that I do on my part contributes to the world being what it is. Right now, the world that we experience is a sum total of actions that we have performed and the actions that others have performed. There is an order that Surya keeps talking about, which puts together all these different causes to bring in front of us the world that we all have to deal with. Okay? Alka told me a very beautiful thing yesterday. I almost had tears in my eyes. She said that her grandmother, used to sing a bhajan.
Yeah.
Okay? Her bhajan, that bhajan was,
કે આમ સખી આમ કેમ થાય પાંખડી હલાવું ત્યાં તો વિશ્વ હલી જાય હલી એત શું હશે.
Beautiful. Okay? Can you translate?
Yeah, she's like Sakhi means friend. She's addressing it to a friend. Okay, why this happens? I'm just touching the petal of a flower and the whole world is shaken. The interconnectedness.
So I'm doing only one little thing, but it has impact on the whole universe.
On the whole universe.
Okay? You are not only the experience of the universe, you are the participant in the universe. The quality of your participation has to be based on certain values that you have. And this is why even this morning, Jay told me, she said that she's raising a grandchild. Okay? And she says now the grandchild is of the age that is going out and discovering things. And you know how the child is dealing with the plants in the garden and all that. So what is the tendency of a child? You just, you pluck the trees and you do whatever. And she says, pluck the leaves, and she says, do it gently. This is also life. I said, my God, amazing. If at that age you're inculcating this value, simple things in life, right? Inculcating this value that, hey, don't just, you see the tree and you pet, you take out the leaves. Not that kind of insensitivity. Sensitivity, there is life there. You don't just take it out, and if you do it gently. Okay? These are the things which make a person a sattvic person. Okay? So this is where we say that food habits are something which exhibit, what do I choose to intake. Okay? That shows a lot about how do I see myself in this universe, and how much I participate in either everything being a little bit more caring for the, I liked also when Jay said that sometimes you have to, this is a cockroach, there is a pest or whatever. So it's not like, oh, I have to be, this absolute we are not talking about, right? You need to, at times, you don't want the rats running around your home, and you don't want, but when you do it, do one thing, you pray for that, okay? That shows sensitivity, okay? Things are not just, oh yeah, this is awful, tag, and then you pet, it's a very different mindset. Two people are doing the same thing, right? How they are doing it? What is it that they understand? She says, pray for a better life, because that's a jiva. Next time. Okay? These are they are small, but they are very, very profound. Because what makes a person sattvic at a global level are not just big things, it is these small things. Okay? So this is what we say, ahara. So here he says it's not only that. What is interesting is that the ahara which are priya to sattvic people are that which will enhance sattva. Sattva we have defined as that where there is a certain clarity of thinking. There is thinking beyond my habits, likes and dislikes, and what? Pleasing my senses, okay, or just my health. Okay, there is much more to it than that. Okay, so I've expanded my reasoning for choosing my food. Okay, in addition to that, it says that which will also enhance your arogya and sukha priti vivardhanaha. Okay, arogya means health. Health is also one of the criteria. Okay, so it's not that you just totally disregard, because this body is also something that is a gift, which is something that is given to you. So you have to take care of it. Okay, and the if you take foods which are difficult to digest or whatever, a lot of your effort just goes in doing that function of digesting. See, the purpose of the body is you eat light foods so that it can then do what you need to do. Right? So that means your whole time and effort doesn't just go in looking after the body. So it is like what happens is you in Kathopanishad there is an analogy. Okay? The analogy is that body is like Ratha. Ratha is a chariot. Okay? And it is meant for you to go to a place. Okay? So it has a use. It is highly useful. Okay? But imagine, so you are the person who's owner of this chariot, and you have to use that chariot to go to the place. Okay? In this case, moksha. Okay? Moksha is understanding the realities and freeing yourself from the sense of limitation. Okay? Now imagine the chariot owner spends one whole life only polishing the ratha, making it extremely beautiful, okay, and every day just cleaning it and keeping it very good and embellishing it, and doesn't use it at all for going where one has to go. Okay, the body becomes an end in itself. Okay, here the body is a means, that is a gift given to you. It is means through your understanding more or evolving as a person. Okay, so that means the whole thing about arogya is not just for keeping it healthy and spending your whole life keeping it healthy. The whole attention is focused on keeping it healthy. Okay, a healthy body is something which will help you. If you have aches and pains and all, will you be able to sit in Vedanta class and think about things? No. Okay, so you need a healthy body to be able to do things, right? That is something which is a base point. It is not an end in itself. Okay, so this obsession with arogya, with this health, and all kinds of research after research, one negates the other, and and which keeps on changing, and my whole life goes in doing this research. One day something is very good, and next day something is not good, and whole life is devoted to that. So much of my time is spent on that. Okay, but here it is just something which is easy to digest, which will keep me healthy, so that this body can be used for what I'm here for. Different. Even if I'm concerned about my health, the intention that I want to keep the body healthy is different. Okay, so this is what we call arogya. Then the other is sukha priti vivardanaha rasyaha snigdaha sthira hridyaha. Okay, there is something else about sattvic food, and that is something which is, with technology, what happens is we tend to have we have refrigerator, and then what happens? We have very old foods.
That's true.
Okay, either industrial foods with lot of preservatives and chemicals, or we freeze things in our refrigerator and have it after 5 days or 3 days, or in a freezer after a month, or I don't know, Mm-hmm. So this is where he says that there is some prana. I think somebody was saying that the tree is alive, right?
Yeah.
So there is this, it has the capacity to energize your body.
Mm.
Okay, now after a few hours, that prana is gone. Okay, so that capacity to energize the body, in fact in Chinese there is a word for it, chi. Okay, that chi goes away. Even Chinese people are extremely aware about having fresh foods. Okay, not these old leftovers and not things like that. Okay, that is also, which is what that prana, a live food, fresh food, is also what we call sattvika priyaha. Okay. Generally, for many cultures, for very long time, food means what? You prepare and you eat. That concept of preserving it for the days and all didn't exist until until a very long time.
Until very recently, you went out shopping for the day food. You had a menu,
Exactly.
and you bought in just enough for the day.
I think like anything we're learning, this also can be distorted. I've seen this information is available that fresh, and but there are people like in New York, for example, who take it to the extreme. Like,
absolutely.
okay, you have bought food, nice, well prepared food, and you can eat it tomorrow. Like, I've seen people waste food in the name of, like, okay, so your lunch is fresh, and then you've worked all day. It's okay to have that leftover. I mean, it's not going to kill you. You know what I mean? I've just seen this, this type of information is overdone.
In some ways it is true, but on the other hand, if you can control the quality, the quantity, right? We are not saying that you waste and throw it away, but if you can,
Or let me say it a different way. Like, if you've chosen a life for your sattvic purpose, to be for some time in a life of speed, you've made that choice. Then, or I guess this is a choice I've made. I've made that choice for a period to live in a speed city like New York, working very hard. So I came to peace with that. I will eat leftovers sometimes.
Yeah, of course.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are not giving some rigid, I'm not saying at all that, this is how it should be, this is what I'm saying, that, this whole information has to be taken not as prescriptions, right? There are always, it's just to create certain sensitivity. Okay, that's all. It's not to kind of condemn you as it's not to say, oh, now am I tamasic now? It's not to create this kind of self-judgment at all. Okay, because we all have eaten leftovers, there is no big deal, right? It's no big deal, right? But it's just that as far as possible, I try not to have 1 month old food kept in the freezer, things like that. As far as possible, and there also there is no rule, right, that I should never have. At times that you are stuck, right, and you will have it. It's not going to kill you, right? But it's just your preferences. Preferences doesn't mean that it becomes a rigid rule. Okay, so that means we are not bound by rules. I'm not creating rules for which you have to just kind of blindly follow at any cost. Okay, I'm just, the whole purpose of Gita is to make you sensitive. Okay, sensitive so that you think about your choices. That's all, and not to create rigid rules. Okay, that's all. Then, so that is something that which is what we call sattvic food. Okay. Now, what is the other rajasic? What are the what do rajasic, the quality of what are those foods? Right. The next verse. Katva lavana tushna tikshna ruksha vidahinaha ahara rajasa sreshta dukkha shoka maya pradaha. Okay. So here he says that the foods that are extremely, right, not just normally, but extremely pungent, right, very bitter, very sour, very salty, okay, excessively hot, astringent, burning, okay. So these are the ones that are what we call Rajasapriya. Okay. Now, what's wrong with that? Okay, here again, it's not like you have to judge yourself or anything. It's just to see what is happening. Okay. Generally, what happens is that certain tastes we are committed to. Okay. My grandmother, I loved, what she said is that, you really love certain food, and most of the time the food that we really love is either unhealthy, okay, or something which is not going to be good for us or whatever, right? So then she said, when you take the food, okay, up to when are you going to taste it? Until it is on your tongue. Okay? How long does it stay on your tongue?
Not too much.
Not too much, right? And your whole commitment, after it stays on the tongue, it then goes. Okay? How long does it stay in your digestive system? In how long?
Long.
Much longer. Okay? So if your whole choice is based on the taste that it is going to produce, totally disregarding the effect it is going to have on your whole system, what kind of choice is that?
Oh, beautiful. Oh, beautiful. What a nice way to...
It was amazing. When she taught me that, I said, my God, how short-sighted we are. Okay? Because my commitment is only to this few moments where this food is going to last here. And then I'm totally oblivious to what effect it is going to produce on my body. Okay? So this is where he says it's very short term. And this is what this Rajasic is, one track. One track is pleasing my senses. One track. Not the holistic. Okay? The total effect. Okay? That doesn't mean that you don't pay attention to that. I'm not saying that. Okay? But that's one of the factors. It's not the only factor. Okay? So we like really chilly food. So that means here we love it, right? But after that it can burn, it can give me acidity, it can do all kinds of hard burns or heat burns, I don't know what all it happens, but it creates all kind of that. Then I pop pills, right, to kind of make it all balanced. Okay, so and without any awareness of we don't even think about things, And so this is how the whole eating is either, it's just pleasing my senses
Yeah.
at times.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is what the rajasic tendency is. Okay, so that is the and that's why what actually the sensations are what are really at times that I like, sometimes very pungent, sometimes very sour, sometimes and that may not be really good for me. Okay, so this is what he says, that they are ultimately, initially they please me. Why? Because they create a sensation, but later on what happens? It is dukkha shokha maya pradaha. Okay, it's not for pleasing anybody else. It will bring me dukkha and shokha. Okay, because my body is designed in a way that it will react to wrong foods.
Yeah.
Right? So therefore it will increase my pain.
Yeah.
Right? So therefore that it's not that not indulging, keeping what you like as the only criteria is for your own benefit.
Benefit.
Okay, it's not for making somebody else happy, or it's not any obligation.
Yeah.
It is sensible living.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is what he says, that Rajasa is the one who will choose foods which are pleasing to the senses, but ultimately it will create dukkha and shoka. Then obviously when you have to experience the side effects of the medicines and go to the hospital, obviously it is not going to be good for you. Okay, then he says the tamas, what kind of foods they choose. It says yata yama gatarasam puti paryushitam chayata uchishtam cha medhyam bhojanam tamasapriyam. Okay, so he says the food which is stale, again as I said, or inadequately cooked. Okay, from where the essence is gone, it's putrefied, it's a refuse, it is unfit for an offering, is considered to be tamasa priya. Okay, so again as I said that there is no such rule that but as far as possible, okay, stale foods, they have lost their capacity to nourish you. Okay, so therefore one avoids that. Okay, because the purpose of the food is what? Nourishment. Exactly.
Yeah.
So you want to take foods that will nourish you the most. Okay. Then the foods which will create what? Certain create toxins in your body, in your system, is something that you, using your free will, are putting in. Okay, the foods which will create toxins in your body.
Yeah.
Okay. This indulgence, there is amazing how at times people are addicted to. That's the first time in my life I saw people are addicted to junk foods. Okay, they just need to have, like, keep on popping, I don't know, chips indefinitely. That is amazing. That these kind of a thing is something where you are actually, again, this body is something that is given to you. You have a responsibility of keeping it well. You cannot abuse it. Okay? Just as you cannot abuse another cow or a goat or anything else, you also cannot abuse this body. Okay? So these compulsive eatings, creating toxins on your body, this is all what? Tendency of tamasic person. Who is a tamasic person? There is not much thought, just impulse. Just total impulse and some lack and some need which needs to be filled with what? Food.
Sometimes, it's just like going away from problems you have. Food is a great comfort.
Yeah, that is true.
A big bucket of ice cream goes a long way in making life happy.
Yeah. Addictions, every addiction is like that. Consumption of all these addictive things, it's all like that. You are actually torturing your body. Okay, smoking. In fact, yesterday, what Kashi was saying that okay, so that means you use your free will to add, toxics to your body.
Yes, you are.
So that means that for what? Because it gives you some
Momentary satisfaction.
Exactly. So that means the whole thing is you've not thought through anything and you're just impulsive. Okay, whatever gives immediate pleasure, that becomes the criteria of your choice. Drugs, alcohol, all have a similar effect.
And how do you explain Lord Shiva's acceptance of marijuana?
No, I don't know about. First of all, these are all. There is nowhere in the Shastra where it is written that he was. Really, we don't. No, I don't want to enter in.
Okay.
First, what is Lord Shiva itself? You have to understand. Okay, because we make into some person and then we give some attributes. This is not at all what Shastra is talking about. Okay, so these are some conventions which don't really have any basis in Shastra. Okay. Okay. So these are what we call inflicting certain pains on your body without thinking about it. Okay, and why do people do it? Why should people, put
Hurt.
toxins in their body?
Hurt, pain inside.
Exactly, to somehow,
Sadness.
huh?
Sadness.
Exactly. Okay, so that sadness, that pain, can be dealt with what? In a better way, right? Not by further intoxicating you. Okay. So that means there is not much thinking which is involved, and this is why it is tamasic. Okay. So this is what the food choices are. Okay. So now
Go ahead.
how? Okay. Then the next is the what we call yajna. Okay. Now we need to understand that what is yajna. Yajna is traditionally a Vedic ritual. Okay. A Vedic ritual where there is a fire. Okay. So fire is considered to be a conduit. Okay. And then what you do, just as I had said that in the morning you can kind of offer your respect to the sun or to the water. This is a more formalized ritual. Okay. Where you physically express, okay, your gratitude to many different forces which contribute to your life. Okay, so that means that one thing is that I just think about and I just say, okay, thank you. Okay, that's one little action. But when I sit and when I perform a certain act, the impact of that is a lot more. Okay, it's the same thing. Okay, you love somebody and you just have one thought, oh, I love this person. Okay, and you stay with the person, you talk to the person, you formalize, you concretize that feeling of love, you give it an expression, it is going to become what? Far more
Intense.
concrete. Right? And this is how the life is lived in forms. It's not just lived in your mind. Right? Anything, any good feeling, empathy, how? You need to express it in form of compassion. Okay? Your love has to be expressed in form of really either verbal, physical, okay, some expression or action. How many children, if you think, okay, grow up feeling unloved? How many? Many. Okay. Does it mean that their parents didn't love them at all?
They didn't express it.
Exactly. Okay. Very often, parents would, unless the parents are psychologically, I don't know, a little bit damaged. Generally, parents love children. Okay, they do. Okay, but how many kids feel unloved? Where is the problem? In expression. Okay, so all these arguments that it's just enough for me to feel it, I need not express it. This is something, there is a huge fallacy. Okay, life is lived in forms, and in that forms, the capacity to express is something in form of your action, to concretize it is something which is given to you, and in order for you to make it more real, we are not just mental human beings, we have to express our, whatever we feel here, it has to come out. Okay, so this gratitude is not just enough to just feel gratitude. Okay? Many people, all these people, oh yeah, I just feel it, so why should I do? This may be one form. Okay, I'm not saying everybody has to go and sit and do yajna and all that.
Is that the same as Havan?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay, exactly. It doesn't mean that that is the only form. In karma, you are given choice. You can do many, many different things, but concretize. The main idea is you concretize that what you understand in form of a physical action. Then it becomes more real. Okay, that's one form. That's a Vedic form. But it doesn't mean that everybody has to follow that Vedic form. You can, but don't just keep it only at mental. It's not sufficient.
Yeah, because I mean, you can see a child in a cradle and say, I love it. I love, not even verbalize it, feel it. But unless you pick up the child and hug it,
Exactly.
the feeling will not
Absolutely.
translate.
This is what, things like breastfeeding, hugging, okay, physical touch.
Touch.
Okay, this Reiki and all, it's interesting because a lot of it just somebody comes and touches you, right? And the place, that itself is so healing, you don't realize how healing. How deprived we are of just some soothing touch.
And that is why when something affects us psychologically, we say we are touched.
Yeah,
That is an expression.
exactly.
And I was touched by the gesture.
Absolutely.
So the touch.
The touch, right? So that means this is something that it is so important, Life can not be only lived in your mind. No. It has to be expressed. The more you express, the more it is that, that reinforcement of that expression, the order will give back to you. You will feel nourished in return.
Because giving is receiving. No?
Exactly. Exactly. The more you give, the more you receive. Okay. Where is our attention? This will come in Dhanam. Okay. So I will explain. Okay.
Or maybe
It
little
will
bit you
come.
can explain.
So now it will come immediately.
Okay.
It is coming. It is coming. Okay. But here he says that yajna is a physical expression of my gratitude. Okay. So therefore, we have in this modern India, there is some kind of a thing of, this is just ritual. Okay? There is this derogatory thing about, this is ritual. Okay, this is nothing this is, I'm not, I love philosophy, but I don't like rituals. Very common. Very common statements
Guilty.
people make.
Guilty as charged.
Okay, these rituals are expression. You may not do it. It's not that everybody has to do it, right? But you have to understand that they have a purpose.
See, that's what has been lost.
This is
In
lost.
the end of the, perform the ritual, and when you ask, why are you doing it? Don't know.
Yeah, that's the sad part.
You were the first person who explained about the life depends on life.
Yeah.
Because I've always asked, what? You guys say, okay, no non-veg, but you're killing plants.
Plants.
And everybody has told me, no, plants don't feel. I was like,
No.
and you're the first person who's actually told me it is life. And I'm
life.
like, thank you, Neema. Because it is
It is
life,
life.
just that you've said that it's the lesser form
Lesser.
of the hymn. So
Exactly.
it makes perfect sense now.
Yeah. Okay. So therefore, this yajna, any ritual that you do, you may want to do it and not do it or do it differently. You know, one thing, what is very nice, and I think I have explained to you, right? I don't know if I have explained to you. Yeah, in Karma Yoga, I think I've explained that as an individual, free will means you can do it kartum shakyam, akartum shakyam, anyathava kartum shakyam. You can do it, you need not do it, and you can do it differently. That is your prerogative. Okay, but you have to do it and not do it with understanding, proper understanding. Okay, so here the whole thing, don't receive this teaching as it's not simplistic teaching. You tomorrow you have to do yajna, otherwise it's nothing to do with that. Okay, you are free to do it or not do it. That's not my job. Okay, or you can do it differently. Instead of sitting and performing a yajna, you can express that connection in a different way altogether. That is your creativity, that is your prerogative. Okay, but you understand how things are and how important it is for us to transform our intentions into actions. Okay, and yajna is one form, and that form has its place, a very profound place. Okay, you may not want to do it, but you have to understand the purpose. Okay, so this is what he says. But even that yajna, okay, it can be what it seems now. It's a beautiful thing to do. That through that you express your gratitude to all the forces. Okay. Now that seems like a beautiful thing to do. Lord Krishna adds further nuance, and he says that itself can be sattvic, rajasic, or tamasic. Right? So here he says what makes that yajna either sattvic, rajasic, or tamasic. I think, Surya, I will do it in the next class.
Okay.
Okay? So now we have done ahara, we will do yajna in the next class. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.